folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Friday, October the 30th, 2015. I have the great honor of sitting face-to-face with Mr. James Turk, who is the founder of Gold Money and the director of BitGold. How are you today, James?
Yeah, I'm great. Good to be with you, Rory.
Well, we're here at the New Orleans Investment Conference, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with James on a couple of occasions while we've been moving around through the conference the past few days, and I wanted to get your thoughts on what do you see happening with the gold and silver markets right now, James. The silver, every time, I mean, it caught a bid and then they beat it back, and gold, it caught a bid and it's been beat back, and I haven't seen the market today, so I'm not sure if they've allowed it to move up or not, or move down. But
it's sort of settling in after the beating back the other day.
Okay.
But, when you're looking at gold and silver, you always have to look at the physical side of the market rather than the paper side of the market. Because, physical gold is different than just this paper promise to pay gold at some future date. Promises are easy to make, but physical gold is hard to come by, particularly in this environment because prices are low. So there's a huge demand for physical gold and physical silver. And we've heard some of the speakers talking about how long it's taking them to get silver, even if they can get it at all. Some of the popular, types of coins and things. Somebody was telling me about junk silver the other day, how long it would take him to try to get some junk silver. So, we're seeing the market really stretched, and this is an anomaly, when you see this type of thing.
Right.
And gold cannot be created out of thin air. Silver cannot be created out of thin air. The only way that the market can come back into balance is that if the price rises so that some people who own physical metal, the strong hands that own it, are enticed to sell that physical metal and take dollars instead. So it's going to take a higher price to get this market back into balance. So, we see these things from day to day. Gold gets whacked and then it comes right back. Silver gets whacked, it comes right back, within a week or two. And that's probably going to happen now. So take this as just another buying opportunity when you see the metals coming off the way they have.
I always look at it that way. I mean, it's when I first got into the silver market, which is where I started, I've been able to, I got in when silver was actually at $36 an ounce. And I've been able to take almost $10, I've been able to take off more than $10 an ounce off of my cost per ounce.
Yeah.
About dollar cost averaging down. So I welcome, I would love to see them. I know a lot of people are going to probably leave a lot of nasty comments about what I'm going to say, but I would love to see it silver at $10 just for a minute.
Yeah.
Just for give me a week to where I can accumulate some enough to where it would impact what I have. I mean, that would be...
I don't think you're going to see that, Rory. But, the strategy that you're pursuing, dollar cost averaging, makes sense. It's a form of saving money.
Yes.
And it's money that, in the long run, preserves purchasing power.
There you have it.
I like to use the example that when I was a young boy in Ohio growing up, my parents could drive the family car into the gas station and fill it up with $2 silver. Today, $2 doesn't even buy you a gallon of gasoline.
Right.
But the silver content of $2 silver, if you take it at its market value, that will fill up the family car. Framers of the Constitution, put silver and gold, into the document.
Right.
Article 1, Section 10. Congress has the power to coin money. It doesn't have the power to print money, which is what they assume they can do, and then regulate the value thereof. And what regulate the value thereof means is when you're coining money, do you coin gold or do you coin silver, and what is the ratio between the two?
Right.
It basically gave Congress the ability to fix the gold-silver ratio, which they did, I think, initially at 15 or 16 to 1 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And, we've come so far away from the wisdom of the framers that it is a little bit scary because the framers put that in the Constitution because the first currency of the country, the Continental, collapsed because of all of the debts and all of the problems and the too much money printing. And, it worked well up until 1971 when we went off, and now we're facing the same kinds of problems that the framers of the Constitution did by printing too many paper dollars.
And and those paper dollars, gives me an open door. And there's been a lot of talk for several months now about cashless society and people and them just taking our paper dollars away from us all over the place. I mean, it's not just here in the United States, but it's globally. I mean, they're various countries, and I think that Sweden has already gone completely cashless, and there may be others out there, but I feel confident that Sweden has gone cashless. And that leads me to BitGold, which is a form of being able to avoid or to be able to participate in a cashless society, but still having real value, real dollars, real purchasing power. And am I right, James?
Yeah,
I mean, help me to understand as far as how BitGold can help me as an individual.
Yeah. You're exactly right. I was using before the example that silver preserves purchasing power over long periods of time. Gold preserves purchasing power over long periods of time. Gold is money. It's useful for economic calculation. We can measure prices of goods and services. We can see the purchasing power being preserved. An ounce of gold buys the same number of crude oil barrels that it bought back in 1950, as an example. The problem is that it doesn't do the third thing that money does. It doesn't circulate as currency anymore.
Right.
Technology has changed currency over the years. Money always does the same thing. Preserves purchasing power, useful for calculating prices, and it circulates, hand to hand. But the technology has changed that hand-to-hand circulation because it's more convenient, less expensive to use. Initially a plastic card, and now we're moving into cell phones. If you look at the development of currency, it started out as people exchanging cattle,
yes.
Basic barter transactions. Then we realized that gold and silver are the most liquid commodity, and they became used as a form of currency. Then it started to be formed into coins. Somebody, I think it was Isaac Newton, who developed the milling of edges so that you know whether a coin was clipped or not. All of those were technological improvements in terms of enhancing the gold and silver coins that were circulating as currency, making it less costly and more efficient in commerce. Then along came paper currency, where the gold and silver actually stayed in the vault and paper circulated, and that was a technological improvement because when gold and silver were circulating, they wore out, from handling and stuff. And gold and silver, are valuable and expensive. So by using paper and let that wear out instead of the gold and silver, it made sense to leave the gold and silver in the vault. And then you had checking accounts develop as another form of currency. Then you had wire transfers. Then you had plastic cards. Now we're using cell phones and things like that as a form of currency. So there's been a long movement toward away from what we would call cash transactions to where we are today. I think cash is going to be around for a long period of time in one way or another, whether it's in the form of gold coins and silver coins or other types of instruments we don't know. But you're never going to get rid of cash, in my view, because people are going to use it because they want to use it. And
they like it.
And they like it, and they're used to using it. But they're also going to use their cell phones and their plastic cards and their other things. They're good. And I think that's really the key, Rory, that and what we're doing with BitGold, we're giving people another choice. It's a choice to use gold as a form of currency, but instead of using a gold coin, you're clicking it from your cell phone to someone else's cell phone. But let me say this, that everywhere outside the United States you can do that, but if you're a U.S. resident, you can't do that yet. And the reason is that the laws in the United States are still very vague as to whether the U.S. government is allowing this to happen or not happen. So as a consequence, you can use BitGold in the United States, but use it as a savings mechanism. In other words, every month, dollar cost average, have $50, $100, $1,000 taken out of your checking account. Buy gold, let it sit in the Brinks vault in different vaults around the world of your choice. It's gold you own, it's in your name, you have the title, and it will preserve your purchasing power. It's a form of savings. Everybody needs savings, but you can't really save money dollars in a bank anymore because you're not getting any interest, and there's a lot of risk associated with it.
A lot of risk.
So, this is a great alternative, and hopefully in the not-too-distant future, when U.S. rules and regulations change, this will be available to people, the residents in the U.S. as well as the rest of the world.
And folks, if you think that the Federal Reserve does not hate gold, just rewind the tape and listen to what Mr. Turk just said, just explained to you. That is a disdain for gold that is hard to even imagine that you can use this form of currency called BitGold everywhere in the world except for the United States.
Yeah.
So
I think it's even broader than that. It's not that they just hate gold. I think it's that they hate competition.
they hate competition. You're right.
And the competition comes not from gold and not only from gold and not only from silver, but it also comes from other currencies around the world. And this gets back to the geopolitics that we were talking about before we started the interview.
Yeah.
What's happening in Asia now is quite stunning. You've got Russia with all of the resources,
Yes.
China with all of the people and the money.
And the manufacturing.
And the manufacturing capacity coming closer and closer together.
Yes.
And they're becoming a world powerhouse. And that has important geopolitical implications, for the future.
As far as that relationship, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the
Yes.
SCO, you have the EEU, the Eurasian Economic Union,
Yeah.
and you have the BRICS consortium as well. So I mean, you've got these three,
Yeah.
and Russia and China are involved in all three of them.
Absolutely.
I mean, and if you look at the resources, and the resources being all the commodities, the people, the manufacturing, the transportation.
Yeah.
Does the Western world stand a chance against this thing that's growing up that nobody's talking about?
Yeah, this force that's actually building. And it has implications to each and every one of us. And the reason is that the dollar for the last 50 years or 60 years has been the world's reserve currency. It's been used by companies for trade transactions all around the world.
Right.
And that's created a demand for the dollar, and it's helped the dollar to preserve some of its purchasing power, even though it's being constantly eroded all of the time because of
Yes.
the new money printing and stuff. But if that demand starts eroding or even evaporates, those dollars are going to come home. And what's going to happen to all of those dollars? It's going to potentially, cause a lot of disruption and inflation. If you get a lot more dollars instead of circulating internationally for trade transactions, now it comes home. People are starting to purchase with those dollars U.S. assets. You're going to see a lot of inflation. So it's got real implications to each and every one of us.
But isn't that already happening? I mean,
Yeah.
China. I mean, Russia. I don't think Russia has hardly any treasuries or dollars on reserve.
Yeah.
China. I heard at one of the speakers saying that it was a total of about 12% of their total U.S. reserves
Yeah.
have now been sent back home.
Yeah, it's still a trickle though, because if you look, for example, at China's total reserves, it's trillions of dollars. But the important thing is that the U.S. government paper that it owns, it's just starting to sell some of that. They own billions and billions.
Yes.
Just starting to sell some of that. They're no longer not even buying it; they're actually selling
Right.
it. And so when they're selling it, they're getting dollars. What are they going to do with those dollars? They're not going to sit on them in their bank account and not earn any interest.
No.
They're going to spend those dollars. That means a lot of those dollars are going to come back to the United States. And you're seeing, Chinese money purchasing a lot of assets in the United States, particularly real estate.
Yeah, and as Craig Henke over at TF Metals report, I know you know him quite well, even though he's interviewed you several times, as he's pointed out, that we're actually funding the Chinese military, because as they sell these treasuries and turn in these dollars, they're buying military equipment, they're buying gold.
They're buying resources.
They're buying resources.
They can even manufacture into their own military equipment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So I mean, it's kind of frightening in a way, but all we can do is protect ourselves, and Bit Gold offers a way of being able to an alternative currency which helps you to protect your wealth.
It helps you protect your wealth because you're accumulating gold. And you can
Right.
do it on a dollar cost averaging basis, which you and I both recommend makes sense. It's a
Yes.
form of saving your hard-earned wealth and preserving that purchasing power. And it's also giving you the opportunity to diversify, geographically. So I always recommend,
Yes.
You want some physical metal in hand, and you want to also have some physical metal, stored elsewhere, because diversification, makes some sense. And, you might reach a stage, where, well, how much do you want to store in your basement or, in your garage? And, how many stacks of silver bars do I want to put in, as doorstops and things like that? So eventually you're going to say, well, maybe I want to put a little bit of silver or gold in other locations. And, that's a good way to diversify your assets. Because what you really have to focus on is at the end of the day, we all want to sleep well at night, and
Right.
the future cannot be predicted. So what we have to do is plan for an uncertain future or an unpredictable future, and the way to do that is to diversify your assets as much as possible. And when you're doing that, you have to recognize that there are two basic kinds of assets. There are financial assets that have counterparty risk. Money on a deposit in the bank means it's dependent on the ability of that bank to repay that money to you at some future date. T-bonds, it's the government's ability to repay that purchasing power to you at some future date. Because you really have to look at it in terms of purchasing power, not in terms of dollars. How much can you buy with the labor that you've spent to earn that money and then preserve it for some future moment in time. So you've got the financial assets on one side with counterparty risk, and then you have the tangible assets on the other side. And I'm talking not only about gold and silver, but I'm talking about farmland, timberland. Even if we have a financial catastrophe, that farmland is still going to be there and it's still going to grow crops. That's real wealth. That's not this paper wealth, which is an entirely different world.
Yes. And timber, I really, the more I think about that and see it, I was telling you I live in Tennessee, and we still have a lot of hardwoods there.
Yeah.
Oaks, maple, walnut. We have all of the really great furniture making, house building.
Yeah, and of course the southern pine as well.
The southern pine,
which has been a major component of house building, and as well as other
forever.
Things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I've got one more question.
Sure.
And this is it's a little different. And with everything that you have accomplished in your life, and all of the strides that you've made and helped humanity, you really have. What drives you today? Why are you doing what you're doing today?
Well, I believe that we're put on this earth for a purpose, and it's to fulfill your potential. And for whatever reasons, I've developed an interest in money and international economics, and that's been my life. And if I can help other people with some of the things I've learned over my 68 years on this planet, so much the better.
Well, I'll take that.
Okay, great.
I hope you don't ever stop. I really do,
Well,
because we need you. We need people like you, and a lot of the people that are here at this conference. It's.
Well, thank you, Roy. That's very kind of you to say, and God willing, hopefully I'll be able to continue to contribute for many more years.
And hopefully we'll be able to have this conversation again next year with a completely different view of what's going on with gold and silver. And James, it's been a pleasure. We've been speaking with James Turk with Gold Money and BitGold, and you can find everything that he's got going on at goldmoney.com and bitgold.com. James, is there anything you'd like to add to it?
No, just thanks for the opportunity to speak with you, Roy. It's really been fun and great to finally have the opportunity to shake hands and speak eye to eye.
Yes, it is. It's I'm loving it. So I'll talk with you soon, James.
Thanks, Roy.
Thank you.